Hello and welcome back to another lesson at ChatGPT for Beginners course. It's time that we talk about live browsing, another great feature that ChatGPT Plus or ChatGPT Enterprise gives you. It's amazing because you can access the live internet and apply all of the amazing capabilities ChatGPT has on up-to-date information. So ChatGPT, which is based on GPT-4 and GPT 3.5, has been trained on roughly 40% of the entire English content on the internet. And of course, a lot of content in many other leading languages as well. That gives it an amazing amount of data, but it also means that ChatGPT, the data in which it has been trained has been gathered, prepared, and then used to train the model. So this data is a lot, but it is not fully up to date. This results in ChatGPT having what we call a knowledge cutoff date. And this one moves, of course, over time because the model is continuously being trained, but usually the training data is about 6 to 9 months old. So if it is February 2024, right now, the knowledge cutoff date is roughly June 2023. However, the live browsing feature basically overcomes this issue because it allows ChatGPT to browse the live internet. So it can gather information from articles, blog posts, etc., that were maybe just posted yesterday. So this way, you can always let ChatGPT work on the most up-to-date information available. This is an important thing because it was a bigger issue with GPT 3.5 and less of an issue with GPT 4 already. But a point of criticism that many people, especially who were kind of against the ChatGPT hype, were talking about is that GPT 3.5 or ChatGPT sometimes made stuff up, or we call it hallucination. Because if ChatGPT or GPT 3.5, GPT 4, if they don't know something, they will, often what happens is they may know a part of the answer, but not the full answer. And it's especially if they don't know the answer at all, the model will usually just tell you that it does not have that information. But if you ask about something where it has some information, but not all of the information, it can actually happen that ChatGPT will BS you and make stuff up. And it was so hard to tell because ChatGPT is great at writing text that sounds very credible and authoritative, but isn't. To overcome this, we use live access to the internet. And keep in mind, again, this is skill-specific prompting. So especially with this one, I really urge you to always use one of these commands in your prompt, because that will let ChatGPT know that it should use the live internet. So you can say, please use online browsing to find up-to-date information. You can say, use online browsing to inform and educate yourself on ... or use up-to-date online resources, right? The keywords really are online browsing, online sources. Up-to-date, because that makes it clear. Don't use the data you've been trained on. Use the data you find by browsing the internet. What use cases can you use this on? One great use case is to summarize news stories for you. Maybe something happened a few days ago and you want to have a better overview of what happened. And instead of just reading one news article, or instead of having to read 5 news articles to get a better overview, you can just tell ChatGPT to research that story. It will gather a number of sources and summarize that for you. Another great way to use this feature is to kind of fact check something that maybe ChatGPT has told you earlier or something that another person has told you. And what you do in that case is you maybe paste the information you've been given, or you just mention the topic, And then you ask it explicitly to find you credible sources that substantiate those claims. Just keep in mind that if you're doing academic work, that's technically not how research should work, right? You shouldn't first have an opinion and then only go out there to find the sources that support your existing opinion. You should have a neutral look at the existing knowledge and data and field, derive your thesis from there, and then neutrally report the observations of findings you have, weight the research question, and then based on this, you report your findings. Let's look at a few example prompts. So first one here, summarize news stories. Can you find and summarize the top news stories, but Iran DeSantis dropping out of the race? Please give me multiple sources by authoritative news outlets and summarize them in one. So here I'm telling it explicitly that I want multiple sources and that it should make sure they are authoritative news outlets. So I will just copy this prompt, paste it here into ChatGPT. Now, this is a sign that it is browsing the internet via the search engine Bing. We'll give a summary of the news stories. And then in the end, it will tell us the source or the sources it has used. Great. See, we have multiple sources. It can be a bit irritating because maybe ChatGPT mentions multiple a source a few times at once, right? But generally, if you just click here and press the control button, it will open these sources and then your browser window and you can validate them yourself if you want. Yeah, and that's how you can summarize a news source. Another one, find sources to substantiate an opinion and thesis. So many people arguing that remote work has significantly increased productivity in the tech industry. But you find recent studies or articles that provide data or expert opinions supporting this thesis. Again, we take a point of view, and now we need data or studies that support this thesis. I copy and paste it. I'm keeping this in real time so you see how quickly it works. And we get a very structured output and one source per paragraph. So here you see we have a very structured output. Here is the source. Here is the source. And if you want to, you can just check those sources yourself by clicking on them. Yeah, and that is how you do it. I'm not going to do that sample now, but basically, if you mention the number of sources you want, you will usually get that or maybe a few less. So if you need 5 sources, maybe tell it to give you 6 or 7 sources. And that is how you use the live browsing feature. So just a few more tips and recommendations when you use the live browsing feature. The first one has, as you have seen, be specific. Your prompt should ideally include what exact information do you want, what kind of sources should it use, and maybe also how many sources do you need. Try again. For some reason, the live browsing feature crashes more often than other features like image generation or code interpreter. Doesn't mean it happens often, but it does happen again and again. So just click the retry button, try it 2-3 times, and if that does not work, just try the same prompt in a new chat conversation. And if that doesn't work, maybe you wait 1 or 2 hours and it should work. Of course, you can also just find information yourself in the meantime, but it depends on your research process. Check sources. As you have seen, ChatGPT will list sources where it drew the information from. You can just click on them and check the source. It's always recommended that if you work with sources and facts, that you validate them yourself, although ChatGPT can do a lot of the work for you.